What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? You're on another episode of Chiefs Focus First and 10 Live, special edition brought to you by Manscaped. Your balls will definitely thank you for that. I promise you. I had never used it, and now I have. And I will say, my balls are happy. The happiest they've probably ever been. I'm not lying. There's no gimmick. Got some happy nuggets. We got Caleb, we got Quentin, and we got Philip on to talk about the draft. What's up, guys?
I'm pretty good. Hey, JP, nice intro. Keep it going.
Yeah.
I know you're going to have some funny things to say. How are you guys all doing tonight?
Great, man. I'm great, man. Happy to be back, bro. How's
Thanks,
everybody
Will.
doing?
Good.
Quentin, how you doing?
Oh, the other team located in Kansas City, maybe in the same parking lot that might be playing right now, continues to tear my heart out. But we're here to talk about the winning franchise located here in Kansas City and how they're going to continue to get better and why the rest of the NFL will continue to be jealous.
Well, my question is, why is it? My question is this: why is it that we don't talk about the other winning team that we have?
Who is
We
that?
have another winning team, don't we?
The
Isn't
soccer team does
a
not
winning
count.
team?
No, they're not doing good this year.
They're not
The
doing
women's
good.
team is doing all right. The men's
That's
team.
what I mean. The women's team. I mean, it's a
They're doing good.
Mahomes-driven thing. So why not, talk about
I
it?
don't know. That team sounds very familiar. I mean, did they just previously win a championship, I guess?
So, but I hope everyone's having a great night so far. What we're going to be doing tonight specifically is we'll be looking at kind of Philip, Keaton, and myself. Keaton's not able to be on tonight. He has other prior engagements. But kind of looking at our quote-unquote draft board and kind of looking at players such as our diamonds in the rough and also looking at other players that have been very beneficial we think that the Chiefs could draft. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll go ahead and begin. Get this ready to go. Okay. Can you guys see my screen all right? Can everyone see it pretty good?
There he is.
Yes.
Okay. We can't see your screen, Caleb.
You can't see my screen?
No, not yet.
Okay. Well, that is weird.
There we go. Now I can.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is what we're going to be doing. We'll be looking at all the different positions and things like this. We see Keaton is coming on. It looks like he's popping in. We can get him on in a second. We're going to go ahead and start off with Philip. So Philip has several guys he thinks are going to be quote-unquote draft diamonds. Those guys are Broderick Jones, DeJuan Jones, Blake Freeland, Wanya Morris, and Nick Saldiveri. Philip, go ahead and take it away and go through each of those guys and tell us your thoughts on them.
All right. I don't want to take too much time on what I'm about to say, but I want to send a shout out to my people at the South. Advocate Coalition of Kansas, raise the heat, baby. So, all right, let me start off with our diamonds in the rough here. I'm starting off with the offensive tackle position because to me, in my honest opinion, that's the number one biggest need that the Chiefs need to take care of. What's up, Thiz? That we need to really take care of. So we'll start with Broderick Jones because let's just say, of course, we know the news about Jawan Taylor could possibly be the new left tackle. Me, I played offensive line back in high school, and I'm just telling you by personal experience, it's not easy to just switch that position. If you look at Taylor's snaps in college and the NFL together, 90-ish plus percent is at right tackle. I don't think it's just a walk in the park, but I do believe in this athleticism. So look at Broderick Jones. To me, he's a top two offensive tackle. I think it's him and Skronsky, but I really say Skronsky is more of a guard because of his arm length, which is 32-inch arms. So that would make Jones probably the unanimous number one, even over Paris Johnson Jr. from Ohio State. When you look at Jones, about 6'4", about 6'5", 315, but a 4.97 40-yard dash, man, a 9-foot broad jump, and impressive 30-inch vertical jump. That's better than what Eric Fisher did at coming out because, he was the first overall pick to the Chiefs, faster than Eric Fisher coming out. Well, Eric Fisher has about 8 inches better with the broad jump, but Broderick Jones, 30-inch vertical jump, man, come on, man. And he's a basketball player too, man. Like, that's why he moves so well, especially why he has the ability to use that ability to block guys. And he was like one of the best pass blockers this past season in college football, contributing to 2 back-to-back national championships for the Georgia Bulldogs. Then go to number 2, which is, JP. You guys have been talking about him, and now I'm really sold on him now based off the research out there on this guy, Dewan the Mammoth Jones. I mean,
Wood. Guy's
Dewan,
a beast. Guy's a beast.
Dog. 6'8", 375 pounds. And dude, he's like a brick wall. Or better yet,
not only that, his wingspan's better than a Southwest Airlines. Look what happened to them today. He could just fly people wherever he needs to take them because Southwest ain't doing it.
Hey, after his NFL career, he might as well go to the WWE, bro.
I'm telling you, the dude's huge.
Like the Undertaker thing. But anyway, so when you look at Jones, man, and that wingspan, this is my comparison. He's heavier than Orlando, where Orlando came in 345, but this guy's 375, but Orlando ran up 5'8", 540. This guy at 375, 5'3", 540-yard dash, dog. Like, come on, man. That's almost like running a 4.98 for a guy that would be lighter for a guy like Jones' size. Like, you'd be scared to come his way trying to get to the ball carrier that the Chiefs had, man. Good luck going against that, because now I did this stat right here. Andrew Wiley gave up 9 sacks, the most by a right tackle, bro.
I thought it was 11, but maybe you're right. Maybe it was 9.
Nah, the 11 probably is because of you add the whole season 2 on top of that.
Yeah, that's what I did.
He had his best performance in the Super Bowl, which that's what you need to do, man. So anyway, Jones, in my opinion, will allow 6 less sacks if you put him in the same amount of pass blocking snaps, according to Pro Football Focus, as Wiley, the 743 pass blocking snaps in the regular season. He will allow 6 less sacks. 35, he would yield 35 less pressures than freaking Wiley allowed. Wiley allowed 49 pressures. If you put Jones in that, I guarantee you, he only allowed 14. And that's better than Mitchell Schwartz did in 2018 when he was an all-pro. So that's me saying, if you get Jones and you stay put at 31, you're drafting your all-pro guy as a rookie. Now, I'm just telling y'all right now, which leads me to number 3, just in case.
Can I stop you there?
Go ahead.
I just want to jump in. I've got a couple of questions for you. One, let's go back to Broderick Jones. Where do you think he goes in terms of what? Because I don't know if he's available at 31. I doubt it, actually.
Of course. My thing about Jones is like you would have to move up to get him, especially believe in his talent. And if you guys look back at the combine, he had a formal, not an informal, formal interview with the Chiefs at the combine. And then the Chiefs were down there at the pro day. We all know they was probably working out Carter and Smith by Joe Cullen, but I know they were still talking to Broderick Jones as part of that. There's not a lot of stuff that's going to get out there, and we don't have to really put it out there, but we kind of read the leaves when you see it, if you know what I'm saying. But that's what I see about Broderick Jones. I think he's top 10, top 15. He could slide to like almost to 20. And if you're KC and he says, unless he's at 20, Seattle is at 20. You could talk to Seattle about moving up to get him there. That's what you could do. You don't have to give up too much, but just move up to 20. Maybe like 31, probably 95, and then let's say next year's second round pick to move up to that position to get him. With Dewan Jones, you could just stay put, man.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah. So Blake Freeland. Now, this is the athletic freak right here, man. 6'8", 302, 4.98 40, 10-foot broad jump, 37 freaking inch vertical jump. Wow. And if you look at his stats in college football as a left tackle, he's probably had the better stats playing full-time left tackle than any left tackle in this draft class. But they're going to say his athleticism, because he switched from tight end to left tackle, might keep him sliding down. But because of what he did at the combine, and plus he was an All-American blocker for Jared Hall, and I think he also blocked for Zach Wilson before he came to the NFL with the Jets. He was an All-American. So you can see him raise his stock because of the draft from early 4th to early 3rd. And to me, I think he's a 3rd-round Joe Thomas.
And one thing I would like to interject really quick. Veach loves transition players. Mm-hmm. He loves them. He loves hybrid players. So for somebody to switch over from tight end to that position, I think Veach would look at him and go, okay, well, I mean, we know what he can do because we've done this with players in the past. Mm-hmm. And it's been successful. Just wanted to put that out there.
Well, that makes me think, of all the crazy packages that Andy Reid would make up. I mean, talk about, we got hungry pig right. What are the other crazy things that
Good
Andy
point.
Reid come up with a tackle that played tight end and is at least somewhat competent in catching the football. So that would be that'd be interesting to see the kind of crazy packages you could get. So that could be something we could get excited for, just the prospects of something like that.
Absolutely. Hey, what's up, Chiefs Live? How you doing, man? Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. I'm gonna finish my last two guys right here, and that is, well, you guys know I've written about Anton Harrison, and DeJuan Jones. So speaking of Harrison, I feel like if we don't want to go at the direction of Jones, especially saying let's keep Jawan Taylor at right tackle, his natural position, I think Anton Harrison would be a safe pick. But we're not talking about Harrison here. But if it's not Harrison, then we probably say third, fourth, early fourth. We can go after his teammate Wanda Morris from Oklahoma. 6'5", he's an inch taller than Anton Harrison. And he has the second best wingspan behind DeJuan Jones. I believe it's like 85, 86-inch wingspan.
Can you imagine?
And, yeah, dude. And according to the stats of Pro Football Focus, he got better stats as a pass blocker. Does it equally probably a little better than Harrison at right tackle as Harrison as a left tackle from Oklahoma. And also the other person who was connected between the two, Harrison and Wanda Morris, Creed Humphrey.
Yeah. Ooh, that'd be nice. Get Oklahoma reunion there. I mean, that line's pretty nice, pretty big, pretty strong. We see Oklahoma's done have a lot of great players. Most recently, you see is Creed Humphrey, but also the guy who's playing left tackle for the 49ers, Trent Williams, was from there. So there's a lot of great players out there.
They breed amazing offensive linemen. Mm-hmm. They do. I mean, it's just
they know what they're doing.
They really
They've done a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And then last but not least, I'm going to conclude with a guy who's not only a pure offensive tackle, but he's also played some guard during his time. He's also a teammate of the most athletic tight end in his draft class, Zach Kuntz, and that is Nick Saldivari. I think that's how I'm pronouncing it, from Old Dominion. I think he's really going to play right tackle in the NFL because when I looked at the KC Sports Network draft guide, they compared him to Mitchell Schwartz, and I see some of it, but I think he's a better version of Andrew Wiley without allowing that many sacks, and he is what Wiley should have been for us, and we was hoping for him. And I feel like he's the opportunity where we could do with him that we couldn't get from Wiley, in my opinion, especially we watch the tank. Not only just the run game, but also passing game. He's really done really well for Old Dominion, and he's also part of the reason why that Zach Kuntz has got the exposure that he did, So
cool. Gotcha. Awesome. Thanks, Phil.
I like the group.
Thanks, Phil. Hey, Keaton, so you're on. Go ahead and take it away with your draft diamonds.
Yes, sir.
For you.
So my draft diamonds, I want to first start off by saying that the tight end class this year is outstanding. That is why you're going to see that 3 out of my 5 diamonds you're going to see on the screen are tight ends. Starting off with Zach Kuntz, he's the biggest riser on our draft board. We projected him after putting him through the thing we got going on with the Excel document here. I think he's projected 4th, 5th rounder from what I've heard, and we actually had him as a late first, which is why he's one of my biggest draft diamonds, because this guy is humongous, number one. I can pull up his stats right here from Old Dominion real quick. He didn't put up the greatest stats at Old Dominion, but he is what you want, everything you want in an athletic NFL tight end. He's about 6'7", ran a 4.5. He just is a monster. He had a 40-inch vertical, I believe, 37 to 40-inch vertical. So I think he would fit in right with the Chiefs' offense. We run a lot of 12 and 13 personnel last year, and we were one of the best teams to do that. And it was very successful for our offense to do that. And I just think that if you added one more tight end to this room we have with Blake Bell, Travis Kelce, Noah Gray, if they were productive, I think that would make it one of the most, prolific offenses in the NFL again. Because once again, you think about, the Chiefs might want to go get D-Hop, whatever. Kelce's the number one receiver, right? And you've seen it with the Patriots in years past, where when they had Aaron Hernandez and Gronkowski, while it didn't last that long, they were both able to put up tremendous seasons with each other. So that's just another way that the Chiefs could kind of dink while everyone else dunks. They could add another tight end instead of a wide receiver. That would be cheaper. With the tight end class being so good this year, it would just be I think it would be one of the best moves they could make in this draft. So the next tight end I got after Zach Kuntz is Michael Mayer. He played at Notre Dame. He just reminds me so much of Kelsey with his game. He's a little stiff, but he's a great blocker. He's probably one of the best, probably the best blocking tight end in this draft class. If you watch his film, you'll just see him. His yards after catch are tremendous. He'll dive for the end zone. He's a great catch radius. I think he was projected to be a mid-first rounder, which what we had him at as well. But I think after watching his film, I think he would also be a great fit for the Chiefs because it would allow Kelsey to move out kind of towards the slot as a slot tight end, and it just allowed the offense to do a couple more things than what they've been used to doing with Kelsey. It would just open up his game even more. And then on to the third tight end and our last tight end of my draft diamonds that I evaluated, we had Tucker Kraft. Tucker, I had a chance to watch him this year. I go to Missouri State, so he played us. He had a great game. He's a huge target. I think he's one of the biggest, another one of the biggest tight ends in this draft class. But I like his game because number one, South Dakota State produces some dogs. Like they produced, they had Dallas Goedert come out of there. Just because they're a small college doesn't mean they can't produce an NFL talent like a Kelsey or a Goddard or a Mark Andrews. He's everything you want in an NFL tight end, but he just played at a smaller level. Then my last two prospects, I had Zach Charbonnet. Zach Charbonnet has great vision. One thing I liked about him a lot was he was used a lot as a goal line back. He had I don't remember the exact amount of touchdowns he had, but I remember it was close to leading the nation, if not leading the nation. I don't know if you remember that, Philip, or anything. But we both really liked him as a complement to Pacheco. If you look at what Green Bay did with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon this year, while they didn't have a great offense surrounding those guys, I think that a Pacheco and a Zach Charbonnet would be a great duo to have, especially if we do not bring back McKinnon, because I think this guy can also be a great pass blocker. I don't know what the deal is with McKinnon. I hope he's back. But if they roll into the draft and McKinnon's still not on the roster, this would be a guy I'd look at in around roughly about the third and fourth rounds. I think he could be I think he'd be an impact player. Just goal line situations, short yardage situations, which we struggled in last year. I think he would be a great fit for our offense. And then last but not least, I have C.J. Stroud, which is the favorite of the quarterbacks I evaluated. What I like about Stroud's game is he has some of the best accuracy I've seen out of any quarterback. Came out last year, this year, probably next year too. If you watch this film, he's just putting balls on a dime wherever you want on the field, which is when you talk to coaches around the NFL, that's the number one trait you can have in a quarterback because you can't teach accuracy. We've seen guys like Josh Allen be able to make huge strides in that, but that's really an outlier because we haven't seen guys that struggle with accuracy in college be able to come to the NFL consistently to better coaching and then change that. I think what you get in C.J. Stroud is he's going to be a pocket passer. He's in the NFL. He's probably not going to work much outside the pocket, which kind of limits his ceiling. As we see the best quarterbacks in the NFL, Josh Allen, Mahomes, have the ability to work outside the pocket. But you have Burrow who can make any throw on the field that doesn't work much outside the pocket, which I think he compares well to Burrow with his accuracy and his size, and I think he could really help whatever team gets him. We've heard rumors of the Panthers, possibly even the Colts or Texans. But I think he'd be a great fit with any team. He just needs to be surrounded with some guys, much like Burrow is in Cincinnati, that can get open by themselves. And I just think this guy's an impact player day one, ready to start. You don't need to sit him a year behind a quarterback, even though you can. But I think whatever team drafts him is going to start him day one. So that was my 5 draft diamonds. Let me know what you guys think about that.
My only question, really quick, I just have a quick question. I know you said Zach Kuntz was similar to Kelsey.
Yes.
I look at Dalton Kincaid, and I know he may not have the athleticism that maybe a Zach Kuntz does. But if you watch his game, he's almost modeled his career after what Kelsey does.
No, I absolutely believe that. No, I loved Kincaid's tape as well. He was actually another one of my draft diamonds. I just had to pick 5, obviously.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah,
I was just curious.
No, yeah. The only concern I had with him was just he's a little undersized, and I'm not sure because you watch his tape. Dude has the best hands in the draft
Unbelievable. Yeah.
for tight ends. Period. He definitely, out of all the tight ends I have listed, he was my favorite in catch radius and hands. My worry for him is he struggled a little bit whenever he was put on a good defender, such as like an elite defender in college. And I just feel like in the NFL, he's going to have to put on weight no matter what. But he had pretty small hands. It's just a little concerning. That's why I wasn't ready to put him on a diamond level. But he was still obviously a first-round grade whenever we put him in there. I can look real quick to see exactly where we had him. But he was easily one of the best tight ends I evaluated. I think he's my second favorite tight end in this draft class. We had him as a late – let me make sure. Yeah, late first-rounder on him, which would have been the second best tight end that I evaluated.
Okay. I was just curious. I know I've watched a lot of his film, and
yeah, I love his game for sure.
My God, I mean, if you didn't know that it wasn't Kelsey, you would think it was Kelsey. I mean, it was crazy to watch him play the game, and he's got wiggle. He may not be like the biggest guy, but he can put on the weight, and I think a lot of the technique he can pick up in the NFL,
sure.
especially with a team like ours. But when you have coaches that we have,
wouldn't you agree though that it may be smart instead of maybe going out and drafting a wide receiver early? I think the Chiefs have found out that you don't have to pay tight ends as much as sucky that is for those guys. Salary cap wise, it really helps us not having to pay Kelsey $30 million a year, even though he puts up wide receiver 1 numbers. So what if you were able to run 12 and 13 personnel out of that mostly next year because we were so successful at it this year, and then draft an early tight end?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't agree with any of the mock drafts that they want us to grab a wide receiver or anybody else that wants us to grab a wide receiver in the first round. I don't think it's honestly, I wouldn't even care if they waited until the 6th round to grab a wide receiver because it's not the greatest wide receiver class.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, we've taken, as we've said on many shows, we've taken mediocre wide receivers or average at best and made them stars. So I don't really – I am not all about drafting a wide receiver early in the draft at all, for that matter.
I agree with that.
I would it's not a question, it's more of a comment. I know you talked about Michael Myers' blocking ability, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that if he gets drafted, Blake Bell is no longer on the roster.
Yeah,
I agree.
I think Blake is already a
if Kansas City drafts a tight end, and as long as he doesn't have something significant happen where he just looks horrible in training camp, I think Blake Bell is going to be the odd man out heading into camp. So especially if you're able to get a guy like Michael Meyer, who is, I've looked at him, he is a really good blocker. And I do think that because of how physical the tight end position is, it does take a little bit of time to get up to the NFL speed. It's a lot like offensive linemen, right? Where a guy doesn't really just come into the league and all of a sudden become the best tight end or one of the better tight ends, right? It usually takes a little bit. So if you can sort of develop that talent to where he doesn't have to be the number 1 tight end, I'm not depending on put X tight end here. I'm not depending on him to be the number 1 guy. I do think that that's beneficial to Kansas City, especially where, really the top 4 tight ends in this draft, in any other draft, they would be the number 1 guy to go. That's how talented we're talking about this tight end class is. So if you're going to take a tight end, some of these guys will slip into the 2nd, 3rd round maybe, so you can pick up a pass catcher there. And I agree with, JP, we've talked about this before, that I really don't want the Chiefs to pick a wide receiver in the 1st round. I want them to stay with one of the lines, whether offense and defensive line. DeJuan Jones is obviously my favorite to go in the 1st round. I've been on the DeJuan train for about a month and a half, I feel like. So, and then the other guy that I think that the Chiefs could realistically pick up is Felix from K-State.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's another guy that can be picked up by Kansas City because the defensive line class is so deep. A guy like him, sort of like a Karlaftis, to where he's really talented, but he's going to slide. I think those are the 2 guys that I feel like will get. But the tight end class, you're absolutely right, is super deep, and
it's crazy deep.
Kansas City, it really is. And in Kansas City, we don't talk about the wide receiver room, we talk about pass catchers, and that is something that we can continue to develop. We don't need a number one wide receiver because we have Kelsey. So we just need guys that can catch the ball. We need 500-yard receivers in this offense. That's what we need.
And that's true. And I agree absolutely with what you're saying. And the one thing that I liked about Kincaid is that with Mahomes and the way he plays, and he does somewhat rely on Kelsey. I mean, I can't say it's 100% rely on him, but he's going to go there if he needs to go there. So if I'm going to go after a tight end in this class, I'm going to go after one that really mimics Kelsey's playing style. Just simply because if you're going to, at some point, I mean, we all know Kelsey's probably got another 3 or 4 years left in him. I don't think he's going anywhere until he's 37, 38 years old. But he may slow down a little bit. And if he does, you want another person that can step in and do what he does, or at least close to what he does. Shannon Sharp said it best the other day, which I was really surprised. But Shannon Sharp basically blasted everybody on his show and on Twitter and said, if you think that he's not the best tight end in football in the history of the NFL, you're out of your mind. Because he absolutely is. And he really is. No matter how you look at it. He developed the chip block for a tight end. He actually developed that block. He doesn't need to go out there and headbutt people. He doesn't need to go out there and run into brick walls. He goes out there, you take a half a second to a second off a defender, and you allowed your running back or your wide receiver to get around him, and that's really what you need to do and keep your longevity, and that's what he's done. And I think that's why he's going to have another 3 or 4 more years left in this league. So
and I think
if we could bring somebody in like him, it's just icing on the cake.
I think the longevity point is key there, because if you're able to get a tight end inside of this system, and let's say he takes away some snaps from Kelsey to where you can do some load management, right? So you aren't depending on Travis Kelsey to be out there for every single snap, to where maybe at the start of every first and 10 at the start of the drive, you don't need to run Kelsey out there. You can put your rookie tight end out there, and so it's not a big down if he doesn't make the play. That's okay. Live another down, so you can take away some of those hits, because Travis Kelsey has talked multiple times about how much he got beat up this season and how much he got beat up last season. The dude is taking a ton of hits, and it's just because that's the only way teams feel like they can slow him down, is just by hitting him off the line of scrimmage. And because of the position that he plays, it's a very physical position, right? You're allowed to hit guys on the line of scrimmage, more than you're allowed to hit wide receivers. So if you can put a guy, pick your tight end that you end up with in Kansas City. If you can get a guy and have him absorb some of those hits and continue to improve his game, you're going to extend the load that you can put on Travis Kelsey.
That's a good point.
I agree. Let's do this really quick. Before we get to Caleb's, I want to run a commercial really quick from our sponsors, Manscaped, and we will be right back.
This episode is brought to you by Manscaped. Use the code ChiefsFocus to get 20% off of your order. Manscaped. Your balls will thank you.
That is a very the start of our commercials with Manscaped. We're doing this for a reason. We're going to be doing our own commercials with them, but when I tell you your balls will thank you, they will absolutely thank you. I've actually put it in our group chat, our private chat here, about 9 times. My balls are excited. I don't understand how people haven't. I don't understand how I passed this up, ever. Honest to God, I mean, this is not pushing anything. It's the best damn thing ever brought in for men's grooming. And it's not just about your nuggets. They have they have body wash, they have beard stuff, they have everything you'd ever want. It is the most incredible product for men I've ever seen. And honest to God, I wouldn't go any other direction. And by the way, just really quick, holy crap. They have boxers that are they're like silk. I mean, honest to God, they're the most comfortable freaking pair of boxers I've ever had in my life, and I've had some expensive boxers. But these things put them to shame. Unbelievable products. I Just I couldn't have, even if they weren't our sponsors, I'd be endorsing them right now, and I'm saying that with all heart. Um, okay, let's move on.
All right,
Caleb.
so for my draft diamonds, you guys can see everything good in the screen right here. You guys all
Yep.
see everything good. Okay, so these are my guys. So I got 3 wide receivers, mixing some defensive guys. I mean, number 1 is Jalen Hyatt, wide receiver at Tennessee. For all you guys who love college football, he is the guy that torched Alabama, 6 receptions, like 215 yards, 5 touchdowns. I know we had a fan on the last show say that Alabama's defense is on a down year. Yes, but Alabama's down year defense is normally pretty good than most other teams out there. And to see what he was able to do in that game, specifically the route running, and be a constant, reliable number 1 option for Hendon Hooker, and also for the other guys who stepped in, more specifically Joe Milton, who transferred from Michigan, went to Tennessee, and is probably going to have a Heisman-like season coming out this year. Jalen Hyatt's a great guy. I think we can see him do a couple different roles. I think he could possibly take over the McCole Harbin role a little bit, but elevate that role, doing jet sweeps, but kind of learning the route tree and working on everything from that standpoint. So if he is there, and I think he's about like maybe mid 2 to 3rd round grade, if he goes to later, I think he's going to be like a top of the 4th, no later than that, but I think he's very great. The next guy I have is Lucas Van Ness. You guys may or may have not heard of this guy, defensive end from Iowa. Everyone loves to crap on Iowa because their defense is the offense is terrible with a capital T and all caps, all those things. Their offense is terrible, but their defense is phenomenal. That's some great players. Lucas Van Ness, he's a redshirt sophomore, so he redshirted his first year, and these last couple of years he's been playing. Looking at the stats, the past 2 seasons he's had 13.5 sacks. That is really good. 7 sacks last year, 6.5 this year, and he's about the same amount of tackles. He's done very, very well for himself. I think he's considered to be a top 5 defensive edge prospect. Now, here's this. If he falls with Chiefs, I believe he has the ability to be kind of what we see with George Karlaftis. It's going to take a little bit of work, but I think get to that point. There's also multiple other guys I feel like they are the same way. Guys like Will McDonald IV, who's projected to go in the 1st round. I think that Lucas Van Ness, he's going to, if he goes in the 1st round, great, but I only see him maybe being a day 2 pick, maybe between 2nd and 3rd round. If we look at the lace, no later than the 4th round. The next guy I have, his name is a little difficult to pronounce, but it's Ade Tomiwa Deborari. This guy's local kid from North Kansas City High School, a phenomenal defensive lineman from the University of Northwestern. Very strong, very active, has worked on his game. I think he's a guy that the Chiefs could get probably in the 3rd round if he's available. The Chiefs should get him. I mean, he just flies off the tape. He plays in Northwestern, who's not the strongest team, but he was on those teams during COVID and years after that were able to kind of compete with Ohio State for a little bit and was able to cause some issues in the backfield and things like that. So that's another great guy the Chiefs can get. The next guys have another wide receiver in Jalen Cropper. Quentin, this is dedicated to you. We see this guy is another great wide receiver out of Fresno State. He is the guy not many people was talked about. As Quentin said, we could possibly use him as a kick return game. I believe the Chiefs could do that. Also, I would not be surprised if we could use him in the jet sweep game as well, similar to a Hyatt. But I think he has a potential to up his game immediately and add a different level of play to the offense. And lastly is a guy named Cedric Tillman, wide receiver 2 for Tennessee. This guy right here is 6'3". He's taller than Jalen Hyatt and taller than Jalen Cropper. This guy, I think, is going to be a 4th round pick. Very, very strong, very, very tall. What we're going to see is he was fairly consistent throughout his time. He wasn't the best receiver on there. We see how Jalen Hyatt got a lot of praise, but we're going to see that Cedric Tillman, 213 pounds, has great frame and very, very great at running the route tree. So you can put him in any different position. And I feel like with him, he's a guy the Chiefs could get later down the line that not many people are talking about. Now, if Cedric will go before Jalen, that would not surprise me, but I have a feeling what we're going to see is Hyatt's going to get drafted first, and then Tillman's going to get drafted. That's how I feel personally, the way how offenses and things are being run now, just kind of all those different needs. But when you look at all these different guys, if the Chiefs really get any of these guys, they can have immediate impact. And these are not guys that are just going to come in, do some stuff here, do some stuff there. They're going to be like the Karlaftis or they're going to be McDuffie, how they're going to step and they're going to be very, very helpful from day one. And they can help the Chiefs get to that point of eventually getting back to another Super Bowl.
Van Ness is the kid that we talked about from that is just always in the backfield.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what, he's always in the backfield.
Exactly.
And he had great footwork, really good technique, and he didn't overrun his routes, or overrun the play, I should say, which was pretty, that was one of the downfalls that Karlaftis had at the beginning of the season was he would overrun the play
Mm-hmm.
and he'd have to come back. This kid, this is the one we talked about earlier, maybe a month ago, and I watched him play and I went, wow. I mean, this kid, he knew when to stop, he knew when to cut, he knew where the play was going. He's got great vision. So
he can do a lot of different things. I think if the Chiefs bring him in, it's going to help because you have another defensive end that can be consistent. It can basically add more to the motor, to this defensive line. Like Philip has been preaching his articles. I think Quinn has put him in as well. Joe Cullen. We can everyone give a thank you to Joe Cullen for what
one of the best.
If he can get other guys like a Karlaftis who's just played football and have him do very, very well, I have no problem think he can take a guy like a Lucas Van Ness, a Will McDonald IV for any other defensive end out there. Also, we looking at DeBarre, he can play a little bit of interior defensive line too. So I think that's also another step. So all these different guys can play multiple different positions in all these different areas and all of the different facets.
Well, is Tillman is he the one that is the hybrid player that can play wide receiver, CB? He can play on both sides of the ball. Is that the kid I'm thinking of?
I don't think so. From what I looked at, he's mainly just played wide receiver.
Okay, there's a kid that I'm trying to remember his name. I can't think of it right now, but he was really good. Philip, you probably know who he is, but he was a hybrid player, and he would jump from CB to wide receiver. He was in a smaller school. I can't think of his name right now.
D2 school?
D2 school.
Okay.
God dang it. I wish I could remember his name, but he was really good because he was tall. He was a tall, in my opinion, he was a tall cornerback compared to what's in the NFL, but he was just very strong and very, very athletic, had great hands.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, what's up? We got Corey on. Wow, you're doing a lot.
Well-made cheering section.
Yeah. I hope other people showed up. Anyway, just joking. If I can remember this kid's name, man, I mean, he was an amazing player. He was like 6'3", $190, $195, played both sides of the ball. Just phenomenal at what he did. I was really amazed by watching him play.
Yeah.
The only person I could think of in my mind, only person I know who ever switched from a position, but it was from receiver to corner was Richard Sherman. But then the other guy.
No, this kid's playing this year. So
this year.
He's playing this. Well, I mean, he played. This is his time right now. He's been in college for. This is his first year of eligibility, and I can't think of his name.
Are you talking about Ross?
Who?
Justin Ross?
No. This kid is in college. He's in the draft. And the only reason I knew about him was because somebody actually brought him to my attention, and I looked and I thought, wow, this kid can play. I can't think of his name right now. But he was a wide receiver, switched to corner, went back to wide receiver, and I think that's where he played out the rest of his college career was at wide receiver. Or maybe the other way around.
I wrote an HBCU article for She's Focused, and one of the players I mentioned was a player named Shaquan Davis from South Carolina State. I called him HBCU Megatron, but I don't know if you're talking about that guy, but he's dominated, and he could be one of those guys. I don't know.
Maybe I can't remember, but man, he was good. Regardless, I like it. What are you thinking, Quentin? What do you think of these drafts?
You guys got any thoughts, concerns of our diamonds in the rough? Someone we can add? What do you guys think?
Well, I like the Lucas Van Ness point. I think he's someone who hasn't been talked about enough. Look, that's a guy I feel like is probably not going to slide to Kansas City, but it's because of guys like him that I think a guy like Felix will slide to Kansas City because this just shows the depth at the position, the defensive end position. Look, you have a lot of snaps to replace. Okay, Kansas City has a big task coming up with their defensive line. There's a lot of they had a lot of snaps leave this offseason from Frank Clark, Carlos Dunlap, right? There's a lot of guys that are no longer on the team, and you need to replace those snaps. The Chiefs are going to have to invest a lot in the defensive line. I know that they've made some free agent signings. They brought some guys back, but you are going to need to invest in your defensive line in the draft. And I think that goes on both the defensive end and the defensive tackle position.
Absolutely.
One of the guys that I think needs to be, we need to talk about, and I talked about him before. I wrote an article about him a while back. A defensive tackle / defensive end from Pittsburgh State, Kauja Cansey.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Somebody that I think we need to keep an eye on. I think because of his size, he will go day 2. I don't think he's going to go day 1. He's smaller, so I don't think any team in their right mind is going to spend a first-round pick on a smaller defensive tackle. But I do think he is a valuable guy to get, especially when you already have a dominant defensive tackle. I don't need him to, eat up double teams because I already have a guy that's doing that. So if you can get a guy like him next to Chris Jones and on this defensive line, I think that he can be a valuable asset, even if you're only bringing him on, later in games or on passing downs, anything like that. I still think that there's value there. Kansas City needs to rebuild this 6-man defensive line. So there are a couple guys that I still think Kansas City could get that are of value.
That's a good point. And I think like what you're saying, like this is a lot of guys later. I mean, that's how deep this is. And this is the perfect time for, I think the Chiefs are going to take 2 defense linemen, an edge, and then also an interior guy. I mean, you have another guy, I forgot his Estar, I think his name, out of Baylor. Great guy that can sub space. I think that's how his name is. He shoves up space in the middle, can stop all our runs. I mean, so there's a lot of guys.
The nose tackle?
Who?
The nose tackle from Baylor?
Yeah. That's another guy. So I mean, so there's multiple.
Only is 6'4", nose tackle, 330+ pound dude, but his pass rush ability. Imagine him and Chris Jones, bro.
And Veach loves guys that can play on multiple spots on the line, in the interior or edge, and that's kind of what we see. I mean, I think that was original the hope for Nadi, but it just didn't work out that way. So,
yeah,
and so does Spags too, right?
Exactly.
This defensive coaching staff also likes guys that are versatile and can be used. We're moving into the era of analytics-driven football, where your defensive end no longer just stays purely on the left side anymore. They move around to get the best matchups, right? Which is why now the right tackle is becoming, just as important as the left tackle, because you have defensive coaches that are moving their best pass rushers wherever they think they can get the most pressure from.
Yep.
That's why you need to be able to get
opportunities.
Exactly. So you need to be able to get those mismatch opportunities. And if that means you can get, let's say there's a left tackle, right, that really struggles with bull rushes, but is really good hand fighting against speed rushes. So if I have a guy that normally plays defensive tackle who is really good at just moving guys over, but is a little bit slower purely because of his size, well, let me move that guy to the edge because I know that right or left tackle struggles with guys that are just bigger than them.
Exactly.
Right? So those are the sort of thought process you have to go through. And if you're Steve Spagnuolo and you're Brett Veach and you see a guy that's in the 3rd round that, man, his technique isn't exactly where we want it to be, but man, he's really strong and we've seen him use his strength to benefit him before. That's a guy I can use on my defensive line, and you coach him up from there.
Exactly.
So those are the kind of guys that I think are in this draft at the defensive line position. There's not a ton of blue chip talent, right? We talked about that. There's not really a lot of generational talent at any position, really, but there's a ton of depth at multiple positions, and that falls into Kansas City's hands because they're picking later in the round. So, let some of that talent trickle down to them because there's not enough picks for all of them to go in front of them.
And that's a good point.
Do you, just out of curiosity, and this is something that I loved about Joe Cullen, is the fact that he sees how an offense is operating, and he adjusts the defensive line to that offense where he can put gaps in certain areas. He puts Chris Jones in the spot that after, it could be 3 or 4 or 5 series, he sees what's going on and he will put Chris Jones in a spot to succeed, and he opens up gaps in that defensive line I guess I should say, he closes offensive line gaps that we were getting burned on prior to him being here. I mean, those gaps were wide open, and that's why our run game sucked. That's why a lot of things were just falling apart simply because we didn't have a good defensive line coach. But he has that vision to where he can see a player's ability and also fill up those spots on an offensive line that we were missing prior to that. And I think that's something that this could be crazy, but I think you're going to see lower tiered players on the defensive line be able to step up their game simply because it's similar to how we see on the offense with Mahomes and the average wide receivers to a degree. You're going to be able to see our defensive linemen be able to step up their game because Cullen is able to exploit those opportunities, which we didn't have that before. And I think that's a great opportunity for us to not, we may not have to get the best of the best because Cullen can make them better simply because of how he adjusts to the offense, which we didn't really do before. That was the adjustment that we were missing. I mean, for the last 4 years, if you really want to think about it, prior to this last season. And we noticed it with, a lot of Chris Jones and how we moved him around and it actually worked. We noticed it with Karlaftis a lot, that things were just working in our favor because of that. Is that anything you guys can see happening, with the way this defensive line is starting to gel, I guess I should say, under Cullen's regime?
Of course. I mean, Joe Cullen, before he came to Kansas City, he was the big reason why the Baltimore Ravens. I work with the Chiefs, by the way. If anybody else don't know, but I'm a guest service representative, ticket taker this coming year. So my first year working there, I was there with the 4th and 9th play. This is the same man that coached the number 1 defense at the time, especially when we had Mahomes in his first year. And Joe Cullen is a big reason why they were number 1 since he got there in 2016, from 2016 to 2020. And because you had that, and then on top of that, you looked at what he did as a defensive coordinator for the Jaguars. They were part of an 18th total defense, while Spags was 27th ranked in 2021. Then when we get Joe Cullen, we go from the 27th total defense to 11th total ranked defense. We really should be top 10 or top 8 in that ranking. And I feel like it's just all about where you say, like, you don't have to really get like a big time edge rusher, like, just like as Quentin alluding to Quentin saying, you got depth there, man, especially like guys like a Zach Harrison from Ohio State who can get in the 3rd round. He's a guy that might not be a household name, but is a guy that probably off the back of you 8-sack season based off of working with Joe Cullen, especially with the guys you got, especially you got Charles Amanu, who I believe could probably have the best season as a pro, now working with the Chiefs, now back in the Big 12 region wearing his number 90 from the University of Texas.
Well, so
he'll be back. Yeah, he'll be back. I agree with him. I mean, I think, this might be a situation to where we see that some of these players that may have not have done so well, in the past are just going to continue to grow with Cullen being there. So he's very good at what he does.
Yes.
Plus, I think that, there's real optimism and that the defensive line will get better in terms of George Karlaftis, right? I mean, you have a rookie season, and I think it's fair to ask him to be better next year. I think what we saw towards the end of the year, probably the last month and a half, I think he could be like that for the entire year, right? You're not asking for a crazy amount of production, but, George Karlaftis, and I keep reiterating this because I think it's important, George Karlaftis didn't play football his entire life growing up. And so, when he was in college and even in the NFL, I still think he was learning a ton, and he'll continue to learn. But having him spend an entire offseason, get an entire year under his belt, working with not only just the coaching staff, but the other players like Frank Clark and Chris Jones, and then now spending a whole offseason continuing to improve his game, I think that he's going to get better, and he'll get more snaps. So then you can sort of put the new rookie in, right? Whoever you get. And we know that Kansas City is going to need to invest in that position. So, yeah, I think that this defensive line needs to get better. It will get better. And it just comes down to Kansas City, I really do think, has to invest their first or second round pick inside of that, inside of the defensive line, just because
you have to.
I just think that with the lack of top end talent at the wide receiver position, right? There's no other real, superstar / holes in this roster, right? I think when we look at the roster, to me at least, let me hear your guys' thoughts on this. To me, the biggest holes on this roster are right tackle and pass rush.
Oh, yeah. Those are like the two needs we have. I mean, those are the two biggest needs. A couple other ones we have before we pop back to that is going to be wide receiver, corner as well. But what you say is correct, Quinn. I mean, what we see is the Chiefs need to find suitable guys at those positions. And if they don't do that, I don't know what to say. I mean, yeah, we can put it on Mahomes' shoulders, but we saw how that happens when you do that with Aaron Rodgers and no help. Not saying the Chiefs won't get him any help, but you got to have some suitable talent. And they have to get those positions filled. I think they're going to get those in the first couple of rounds. If anything, by the draft, Veach always gets that one player that people are like, how did they let him slide to the Chiefs? And some people think that's Quentin Johnson. Some people, I have a feeling this year we're going to think it's possibly going to be a offensive tackle, one that people did not think about. There may be someone other than that we're not really talking about that could have a better potential than DeJuan Jones. So, I mean, he knows at the end of the day. So they're not just going to take they're not just going to take anyone random. What I do believe is this: they're not going to have a rookie guard Mahomes' blind side, who they just signed on free agency. They're going to be the left tackle, and whoever they draft is going to be the right tackle. Now, if they need to make any changes later, they will. But I believe that's how they're going to do it. I just don't see them putting a guy there on that edge as a rookie. I just don't see that.
I don't know.
Now, Quentin Johnson, didn't he do a little bit of working with Mahomes
here
recently?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that some people are reading into that a little too much because they were. It was just like a convenience thing, right? Like they were at the facility, and so and you know what? I bet stuff like that happens more often than we hear about it too, just in the past. But because it's Patrick Mahomes, it sort of gets hyped up more. So I'm not going to read too much into that. If it turns out that, Kansas City drafts him and Patrick Mahomes says, hey, one of the reasons that we felt comfortable with him was because I worked out with him, then I'll retract my statement. But I think stuff like that probably happens more often than
it does. I mean, it's not something that's uncommon, but to be in the same facility and get an opportunity prior to the draft to be able to work out with Mahomes has got to be like a dream come true.
Oh yeah, 100%.
If you have a top 30 visit, Mahomes is there. They're like, just go throw the ball, just play catch.
Yeah, see what he can do.
And they'll do it because they're like,
why wouldn't you?
It's not going to hurt me unless I get hurt, which
it's just going to help Veach. It's going to help Veach and Andy evaluate during the draft.
Exactly.
That's what it's gonna do.
Exactly.
I just have a quick thought though, Caleb. Now I understand what you say about the right tackle thing, but this is just my personal opinion.
Okay.
If they draft Anton Harrison, they're going to keep Jawan Taylor at right tackle. And I'm gonna tell you this because you watch the tape, you look at Harrison, especially Creed Humphrey might even have a voice in that too. It's like, guys, I believe in my guy on the left side could handle his job of taking care of Mahomes, man. Like we did our part at Oklahoma, we could do it here with the Chiefs, bro. And he's an actual fit, man. He will fit like a hand on the glove, bro. And watching that film, like I will tell you this, I would prefer really DeJuan Jones because like that's just the simple fit. Like this. Get it over with. Just select him. Even if you have to trade up to number 32 where the Steelers at just to get Jones if he's still there day 2 to begin with, especially if you like say you get the kid Felix, the Lee Summit alum from K-State. I mean, you can do that as well, man.
Yeah.
So,
no, I see what you're saying. I just feel like when the Chiefs ran the whole situation trying to figure out who's going to be our future left tackle, who's going to be it, everyone came to the conclusion either it's Orlando Brown or some type of other veteran because there's no way they're going to have someone else be the blind side after what we just saw happen in the Super Bowl. Now, maybe they have dropped that a little bit, like they feel a little bit confident, and maybe Creed Humphrey's going to put in the good word. I just feel like they're not going to do that for the risk, for the sake of the investment. Mahomes making sure he does not get hurt. They want to make sure he's healthy. Now, if they go against it, then that means they have a lot of faith. I just feel like that's something I wouldn't do personally, but you never know. You never know. A lot of things can happen. A lot of stuff can change.
All I want to see them do is I want to see them hop Cincinnati I
Yes.
just want to see it happen. I don't care what anyone thinks. I just want to see it happen.
Now
I mean, if we have to hop them to get anyone that we remotely would feel like would fit in the system, please do.
in the
Because
world.
right now, all they want to do is build their offensive line. That's,
Yeah,
I mean, and they think they did something with grabbing OBJ,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm
man, they
sorry.
gonna do whatever it takes to try to catch us. And in the words of Maxwell Jacob Freeman from AEW, do what you want to do, Cincinnati.
Yeah. I
We're
agree.
going-
Corey says he thinks it's a little more than convenient to get a top 30 visit from the Chiefs, and then it's a little more convenient or more than a coincidence. I don't know. I mean, it may be, it may not be. We don't know yet, but I think if Mahomes liked him, hey, they're gonna make a decision based upon what Mahomes.
Do you guys think Quentin Johnson's going to fall?
I feel like
I
he is.
I wouldn't be
I feel like
surprised
he
if he
is.
gets picked in this in day 2 pick.
That's what
Okay.
I feel like.
I really do not think a whole lot of this draft class in terms of the top end talent.
Now,
And
if you're Veach,
especially-
do you take then at their pick in the first round? Do you take him if he's there? Or do you let him just continue to fall?
No, I think,
I'd
and
take
on the
Buddy
other
Paul.
hand, too, I think you have more important needs than wide receiver. If you're there and there's an edge rusher that you really like, or the DeJuan Jones is there, I think that's more valuable than drafting a wide receiver. When as of right now, I think you feel all right about your wide receiver room. When with both of the offensive defensive lines, I don't feel good about it right now. And then if the Chiefs draft a left tackle, I do think that there's going to be an open competition for the left tackle spot.
Mm-hmm.
I do think they're going to have, with the guy they brought in and whoever they draft, I think when we're heading into camp, they're going to say, hey, this is whoever we think is going to be better at it. That's who's going to win the job, because when they signed, that free agent, the way they were talking about it, and Brett Veach has talked about it since, it does seem like they think he can play left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
So if they do draft a left tackle, then I think it'll be an open competition for the starting role.
I can
Well, here's my thing, and this is the last I'll say about it. I understand your worry, I guess it would be, or not feeling so great about the defensive line or the offensive line to a degree, but I'm starting to get to that point where I'm not as worried as I used to be about, kind of like how it was, when before the Mahomes era, and we were worried about the offense and what Alex Smith was going to do, and if we were going to make it over the hump. I'm almost to that point because of the coaching staff we've got.
Oh yeah.
I feel like we can bring guys in that may not be your quote unquote household name and make them a household name. And I don't know, man. I just don't feel as nervous about it as I normally did in the past. The one time that we completely fell apart, during the Super Bowl when we had no offensive linemen left. Well, yeah, you're going to worry. I mean, you got guys out there that couldn't block schoolgirls, and they were trying to block Mahomes. I understand that. That's a little bit nerve-wracking. But I feel like Cullen can really make a change in players that maybe people don't really have on the radar, that are coming into this draft. And don't be surprised. Look, there's going to be somebody traded in this draft for a veteran. I'm just telling you, if this goes through, which what I'm kind of hearing, there's going to be a trade for a veteran player during this draft.
Okay.
So as long as it goes through, that's what I feel like is going to happen. We'll see. There's a team out there that really, really needs some draft capital, and they're in rebuild mode. And to a degree, I feel like we can make that trade and end up with somebody.
Rams?
I'm not going to say who it is right now, but I don't want to give it away yet.
Okay.
But I will
we'll
say
talk
that,
off air.
yeah, I will say that. Let me just put it this way: they're struggling at quarterback right now. They're struggling at quarterback in a couple of ways, not just from the quarterback standpoint, but from, I guess, health reasons. I don't want to give this away. So I feel like that there's going to be a situation where we're able to make a trade and move up in this draft?
Yeah, I do think that there are a couple. We've talked about this too. I do think that, one of the teams that Kansas City can trade up with is the Giants, because that jumps in front of pretty much everybody that isn't going to trade with you. That's
Yep.
where that's one of the teams you can jump up to. It's not going to be that expensive. It's in, it's like right 20. I think the highest you can realistically jump up is 22 to 25 is really where you're going to be able to jump up. And the Giants sit at 25. So, you're able to trade up with a team like that. I think you can trade up with Jacksonville, right? Who I know they're in the AFC, but they're in conference, but they still need to continue to add to that team. To me, trading up with Jacksonville in this draft would be like trading with the Ravens a few years ago, right? It can happen, right? I don't think that we're in this position to where no teams in the AFC are not gonna trade with Kansas City. If it benefits both teams are gonna trade with you. The things
The Bills will never trade with us.
That's the exception to that rule is the AFC West, Cincinnati and Buffalo, right? Every other team's going to trade with you. So, the early / mid 20s, I think, are those teams you can trade with. And if there's a guy there and all it takes is you giving up, a third round pick, your first round pick swaps, something along those lines. Look, Kansas City has 10, 11 draft picks. There's not enough room on this roster for 10 more players. The math just doesn't work. So you're either going to trade out of this year and acquire picks for next year, or you can package some of those up and jump up 5-6 spots and get a guy that, you really feel that you need. So if there's a tackle there or a defensive lineman that's there, even a tight end, which honestly, I think more tight ends go in the first round than wide receivers this year.
That's your bold statement?
I agree.
Okay.
I do.
Yeah, I'm calling my shots.
Stamping it.
All right. Well, here's the one thing I will say.
Approval.
There we go.
What I was referring to was trading with a team for a veteran player during the draft.
I think I already know. I'm not going to say it.
So that's what I was referring to. I think there's actually two teams, but one's probably kind of unexpected. But I think that might happen. And
I think I have the team, but I'll talk to you off air.
Yeah, I'm going to be okay with it. I'm not going to be hurt if it doesn't happen, but I'm going to be okay if it does. The other unexpected team, I would be a little bit more hurt if it didn't happen. I'm going to leave it at that. But that's just what I've been hearing. I think I mentioned that on the last show, and that's what I've been kind of hearing, and that's what I kind of hope they continue to do. I hope it happens. I hope it works out for them. Because, again, like Quentin said, we can't fit 10 more guys on this roster. And one thing that I think is not being really – it's really underappreciated, and the fact that it's not being brought up enough is the fact that when we exited from Sam Madison, I don't think if everybody remembers the bullshit that went on last year with him and how that affected the entire group, not this past season, but the season before, how it affected the entire defensive room, especially the secondary area of that defensive room. If anybody has noticed the difference, not only from the defensive line and the way they played, how do you get corners? Regardless of how great McDuffie is, it's still very difficult to bring in corners and safeties and have them play at the level that they played at their rookie season and be day one starters. This is why I'm not as concerned with what they're doing now and moving forward with bringing in guys that may be mid-level players or maybe guys that are off the radar and, not the top prospects in the draft, because we have a group of coaching, I guess, secondary coaches or, that can groom people, that are making players better very quickly. And I think that's something that is very underrated with what this team has done this past season, especially in this. I mean, not just the defensive line, but the secondary as well. The secondary was really kind of lights out with a lot of young guys that no one expected to play as well. I mean, damn, everybody had us written off. Everybody. And it wasn't just because of the Tyreek Hill trade. I mean, damn, we had 7 rookies playing in the Super Bowl, dude. 7.
Yeah.
10 on active roster. The most that ever won a Super Bowl in the history of the Super Bowl. So it's kind of amazing to me that people are so concerned when, if you really look at it in a deep dive, we've done a 360 with the coaching staff and we've done a 360 with the players, with players that you wouldn't expect. So, all the talk about wanting these top tier guys, even draft picks, or not draft picks, but free agents or trades or all of this stuff. Look, man, I'm not that concerned with it. I'm really not. I don't know if anybody agrees with me on this or not, but
I'm not concerned. I just can't wait to see it all unfold. They're going to get the guys they want, and I have a feel like Quinn said, they're going to get the guys who they want. They're going to trade up. I'm going to be honest. I believe the Chiefs will probably trade within the top 20. They have so many picks. I think Veach can work out a deal. Normally, whenever they trade up, they do a deal that is fair to both teams and benefits both teams. I would not be surprised if they do that, especially on Thursday night. I will not be surprised if that happens.
With the draft being in KC.
Absolutely. Now, one thing I want to bring up really quick before we end the show. We are going to do a little bit of a raffle style giveaway with Chiefs Focus. And it's with our sponsor along with Chiefs Focus. And I'm doing this without asking, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Absolutely. If you go on Manscaped, www.manscaped.com, use the promo code ChiefsFocus, buy something on the website. You don't have to buy the biggest thing. You can try out their products. Doesn't really matter what it is. I like all of them. What you need to do is you need to DM us on Twitter that you purchased something, prove that you purchased something under the Chiefs Focus. So you will get a receipt with that promo code, and you will be entered in a contest to get the 4.0 kit. And that is an amazing kit. It comes with the trimmer. It comes with the boxers. It comes with a t-shirt. It comes with
pretty much what we set up for a long
basically
time.
A lot of things. It comes with the ball deodorant. It comes with your ball rejuvenator. Tighten up the nuggets. It does everything you want it to do and then some. And we will give that kit. We are going to pick randomly somebody that goes on, purchases something under the Chiefs Focus promo code, and we're going to randomly pick someone to get this kit. I have the kit. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it as of yet, but I have the kit somewhat in front of me. And it looks like this. And it comes with everything, including boxers and including a nice Manscaped t-shirt. Like the one that I'm wearing that says, let me move this, Manscaped, your balls will thank you for it. They absolutely will thank you for it. Mine are thanking me now. So I didn't know anything about this product. I really didn't. I've seen it. Everybody sees all the stuff that that you see on TV about whether it be male grooming, female grooming, whatever the case may be. They have got this down to a science. And they have so many products. It's amazing to me that stuff, originally was designed just for your nugs. Now they have everything. I mean, it's pretty amazing stuff. I have actually ordered the shampoo and the body wash for myself. Not on I can't order it on my code, but I ordered it just to try it out. Haven't gotten it yet. I'm dying to try it. But they have everything. So go on there and try it out. Use the Chiefs Focus code. If you don't use it, you're not going to be entered. But use that code, the promo code Chiefs Focus. Get your 20% off whatever you order. Try out their products and enter yourself in. If you do decide that you spend over a certain amount, say whether you buy the beard trimmer or just the trimmer itself, and you spend over $50, you will get 2 entries in for that kit that I have. So, with that being said, I wanted to bring that up really quick because I got to tell you, it's probably one of the best things that I've ever seen. And I don't really promote very many things, but this is awesome. So, has anybody got anything else?
I don't think we
Do
got
you want to talk
anything.
about the quarterback? Really quick, does anybody want to talk about the quarterback?
I
Does
think
anybody want to talk about the vet that we brought in?
Oh, well, we can do that.
Blaine Gabbert is a bad quarterback, a starting quarterback in the NFL, but he has NFL experience, and hopefully he will never see the field.
What do you think he was brought in for?
To win a playoff game if Patrick Mahomes doesn't want to get an X-ray again.
No. He was brought
Competition
in.
with Michelle. That's my guess.
I don't even think it was that. I think it's more brought. He's brought in more for. He's not a. Look, he understands the game. He's been around a long time. I don't think he's a horrible quarterback. I think he has a lot of knowledge of things. Look, man, people that can't do teach. That has been something that has been. We've known this since the dawn of day. If they can't do, they teach. Andy Reid was never a quarterback. He's a quarterback guru. Okay? It is what it is. You bring him in to help groom a Shane Buechele, to give him the things that you made the mistakes in your career that didn't allow you to be a great quarterback. And you help him not be a bad quarterback. That's what you do. Yes, you got Patrick Mahomes out there that can teach him anything you want to teach him, but he doesn't have the time to sit there. Mahomes doesn't have the time to sit there and groom a guy to be as good as he needs to be. But you bring somebody in like we've done with Henne, like we've done with who was the one prior to Henne?
Matt Moore.
Matt Moore.
Yep.
You bring guys in like that because they have the experience of the mistakes that they've made, not how great they were. That's why you bring them in. And if they can learn something along the way, again, if they're open to learn, not the Joe Flacos of the world that think they know it all, but you bring it in, you bring them in. If they think they can learn something from a guy like Mahomes, then you do that. It just is. That's what I think he was brought in for. I don't believe he was brought in to see the field.
And maybe to pass on some information from what Brady has told him, and then Mahomes will hear it from him.
Too.
I mean, it's more of at this point, hey, let's get some more people. Let's get those journeyman quarterbacks who have been around good quarterbacks and have seen great play. What can they bring to the table?
Yeah.
At this point, it's like bringing people who can help benefit your overall learning, who may not be able to benefit the play. Now, I'll give you this. Blaine Gabbert was not put in a great position in all those different years he's been with these different teams. But I think now if he were with the Chiefs and gets the opportunity, I think he could do fairly decent. Not to a high level, but can do fairly decent. What you got, Phil?
And what I was going to back up on that, too, is that don't forget who we played with since 2020, Tom Brady. And then on top of that, you look at since 2020, compared Gabbert and Henne. Gabbert's numbers is way better than Henne. And I know you ain't going to like that, Quentin, but listen to this. Gabbert's 111.5 NFL pass rating since 2020 compared to Henne's 96.6 passer rating. Really?
Yeah.
He's not better.
Oh no, I don't got
He's
a
back
problem.
at home too.
I just think you needed to get a veteran quarterback in the room, right? I don't think that Buechele's ready. I think obviously they like Buechele because they've saved him on the roster. They've saved him from being stolen by other teams by moving him on the 53 instead of keeping him on the practice squad. He's in case of emergency that if, Mahomes goes out for a quarter, a game, 2 games, that, your entire life doesn't fall apart and that you're able to keep the car on the road, as it were. So he's fine. It's fine. I'm not going to freak out about it.
Yep. Hey, by the way, I have to bring this up because I was blown out of the water. My wife and I were watching, and I wish to God I can remember the movie. It was a movie that just came out in 2022. I want to say it was a movie with Antonio Banderas where he played basically like a mob enforcer in Miami for all the cartel and everything that went on down there. And in the middle of this movie, They were talking about somebody's arm, and I don't know what it was. They did something, and they said, "Well, unless this dude throws like Mahomes," and I had to rewind the movie because I thought, wait a minute, did they just say that shit? And I looked at my wife and I said, "Did they just say this guy got an cannon like Mahomes?"
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, "I think they did." So I rewound it, and they absolutely said that. His name just got brought up in some random ass movie out of nowhere. I mean, it was absolutely out of nowhere. It was crazy. I mean, it was one little spot that they said it, but I had to rewind just to make sure that they actually said it. And there was no football reference. It was about something else, and I don't know what it was.
I gotta
can't
find that
remember now.
movie.
It was. I'm gonna have to ask her what we were watching when they said it, but I was blown out of the water that they said it. I was like, "Wow, did they just actually say that in this movie?" But they did.
Basically,
So we just watched it yesterday, weirdly enough, because it was just like we were watching something and it was on, and I thought, hey, let's just watch this and see what it's about. And that's what they said. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool that he's getting brought up in movies, and it's not even a football movie, and he's getting brought up about his arm.
Yeah.
So
pop cultural,
pretty insane.
Like Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Basically, he is the Jordan of football. So I don't care what anybody says. He is the Jordan of football. But
and he's ours.
Yeah, and he's ours for a long, long time. So, and not really, by the way, let's just bring this up before we end this. I'm so damn tired of all of the talk about the fucking contracts. I'm tired of it, man. Everybody wants to throw Mahomes' contract under the bus. That's all we've heard about. Oh, he's going to ask for this. He's going to ask for that. Let me explain this to you people really quick, and anybody that watches this after the fact and listens to it on our podcast. This man makes more endorsements than anybody else in football. Get this through your heads.
Never not working.
Josh Allen, he got Gillette. Nothing else. Joe Burrow, all he has done is local crap in Cincinnati. He's yet to get a national deal that I've seen. And I don't think he'd be a very good on the camera anyway. Too arrogant. I don't really see Lamar Jackson doing much as far as national stuff is concerned. I think it's all local as well. Mahomes has 5 companies that endorsed him so quickly, national companies that endorsed this man. The money he makes off endorsements alone is more than most people will ever make in 5 lifetimes. Do you think he really gives a rat's ass about what anybody else just got signed to? He doesn't. He owns part of a baseball team. His wife owns a soccer team. He's going to be a billionaire by the time he's 30. So anyone that thinks for 1 second that he gives a rat's ass about somebody else getting $60 million a year that they're never going to see, or somebody else that gets $50 million a year that they're never going to see, when he actually sees the money that he makes from the Chiefs, and yet all the other money that he makes from endorsements, he doesn't care. He started all of this. He started this gravy train. Everybody else is just benefiting off of what Mahomes did. In fact, he's the 5th highest paid quarterback in football right now at $41 million. If anybody remembers, Tom Brady was the 17th highest paid quarterback with the Patriots.
Let all those other teams be
even that number is a little misleading because Patrick Mahomes' contract becomes guaranteed 2 years in advance. So
exactly
that sort of gets that doesn't get talked about enough. Yeah, I think it's also fair to talk about how the contract is like, yeah, that's what happens when you sign a long-term deal is that your APY is going to look different than some of these contracts that are signed later than yours. Mm-hmm. So can we just?
But you actually get your APY.
Can we?
That's the difference.
Yeah. Can we just move on? And I'm sure that if he's already earned like $100+ million from the Chiefs in his as of right now. I think it's like $120 million he's earned from Kansas City already. So
yep.
And
let's not forget the $100+ million that he's earned from endorsements. Let's not forget about that because he has. I mean, I think if I'm not mistaken, State Farm has already given him $80 million.
Over how many years?
This is to date.
Well,
Well,
he's
so-
been probably 3 years. He's been on those commercials for 3 years now.
Yeah. So a
Probably.
3-year deal for $80 million, I wouldn't bitch.
That's not bad.
Nah. I mean, that's people
He's
can say what they
fine. Plus,
want.
he got Head and Shoulders. He had Call of Duty. He has a State Farm.
He's got
He
everything.
probably has some
He's got
other ones we
Coors.
don't know.
Exactly. And the
Coors.
best,
Yeah.
he doesn't have to spend that contract money. He just could spend that endorsement money like Beast Mode did. Marshawn Lynch.
Dude, he bought his
Exactly.
freaking Ferrari off of endorsement money. He didn't use that Chiefs money. He bought it off of endorsement money.
Like,
Why you
go to
got
bank account,
Mercedes,
commit the interest,
Justin
and call it a
Herbert
day.
on GQ talking about, well, our contract money, we spent $350,000 on a Bugatti or some stuff
But
like
people,
that.
Mhm.
Like,
What is that ding? Keep hearing
that's
that.
my mom texting me on my. I'm hearing. On
Oh, okay, all
Very
right.
good, man.
I just thought it was something going on with the show. Yeah, I think it's asinine for everybody to bring this up all the time, and I know it's clickbait stuff, but a lot of fans fall into this trap. I think we're going to lose Mahomes because of contract. We're not losing Mahomes because of a contract. I promise.
No,
you
I
that.
actually want all these other quarterbacks to get
Yeah.
paid because it makes the team's GM's lives more difficult.
Mhm.
So
And not to mention the fact, let's just bring this up. If they're stupid enough, I'm sorry, but if you're stupid enough to put 30% of your cap space in a quarterback that's unproven, and you can't surround him with talent because he's not good enough to make the people around him better, that's
Mhm.
on you.
Well,
You're the
here's-
ones that are going to suffer.
And here's the
not
thing: you
us.
see, Mahomes is getting paid what $45 million,
41.
$41 million in season. He's won 2 Super Bowls, but they're giving Josh Allen crazy money. They're giving guys like Jalen Hurts crazy money. But it's kind of like, oh well. I mean,
Go
you
ahead.
can pay these guys more money, but we've had 2 Super Bowls. Make it
You
a
can't
third
keep-
one.
And
So
you
at
can't
some
keep paying
point,
$100 million wide
It's-
receivers.
Yeah, at some point, it's going to come to head where teams are like, it's not worth it. I mean, you have not. Like, if they give Herbert more money than Mahomes is making, then that's a problem because Mahomes is the gold standard right now. No one should be making over him. Maybe you can make the argument Josh Allen may be able to make it because he's made it to the over the top. Same thing with Burrow, but from other standpoints, no. A Herbert shouldn't be making as much. A Lamar should not be making as much.
No. And they
But we're
just
gonna
based
see
Jalen
they-
Hurts' contract off one season.
Yeah. So
One season. They based
Yeah.
his contract off of a very weak, scheduled one-season Super Bowl appearance.
hey, his thing though is like, for a guy like or for Philadelphia, he doesn't have the 5th-year option on his contract. He's eligible for his new contract. His contract is sort of like it's a 5-year deal, right? So they do get some flexibility because of the length, but I want Joe Burrow, I want Justin Herbert, I want these guys to get the bag. I want them to give them 50% of the cap. I don't care.
Yeah,
So
please do. Please do. Because
it'll
we've
make
seen what
the
they can
AFC
do when
more-
they've got – look, man, look at Joe Burrow right now. Think about that. Joe Burrow had 2 of the best wide receivers in football, had a really good defense for the most part. And everybody says, oh, it was because of his offensive line. Really?
Alex
It was
Smith
because of
barely
his
had
offensive line. That's what you're going to put it on. You can say that all day long. Did his offensive line cause him problems? Well, yeah. But he was still, if he was mobile, if he was able to get out of the way, if he was able to read 5 plays into it like Mahomes does, I don't think he had that problem. Because he had a better offensive line the last 3 years than we did in the 2020 Super Bowl. That's for damn sure.
Exactly.
So
Alex Smith got hit way worse than Joe Burrow and did it with lesser talent and still is a more proven winner than Joe Burrow.
absolutely.
And I'm sick and tired of Joe Burrow getting praised for dressing like the hamburger the same way that Cam Newton used to dress. That way he got criticized for it. So I'm just going to put that out there.
Well, it's true. I mean, look, man, Cam dressed.
he has
He
some
didn't-
interesting.
He did, but you
He's
know
a
what he
fashion
didn't do?
dude. He's a
Look,
fashion guy.
But you know what he didn't do? He didn't dress like a 1978 pimp. And that's what Joe Burrow dresses like.
Oh my God!
Oh wow.
Sorry, but it's the truth. Cam Newton
It's
was-
always the last 10 minutes of the show that gets pulled off the rails.
Well, and that's the whole point of our show. We're going to pull it off the rails. I got pictures. The man dressed like somebody. Look, you see him I could see him in a movie in 1978, pimping it down the street with a big fat ass wide collar, Little ass hat on his head and a feather sticking off. That's what I see with Joe Burrow. Cam Newton had his own style, but it wasn't pimp.
Well,
and that's the show, ladies and gentlemen. We will see you tomorrow.
Yep, we will definitely see you tomorrow on our other channel, Fantasy Sports Corporation. Make sure you tune in, and make sure you use Chiefs Focus for the 20% off on Manscaped and get your entries in while you got the opportunity to get them in. We're only going to do this for so long. So get them in, get them done, and we will talk to you guys again tomorrow night. And we also talk to you again on Thursday. With that being said, peace out, everybody.